Welcome back to Wave of Docker. This video is going to be episode 5 of Waves Faves for week 8 of the NFL. Week 8. It's week 8. I'm going to get the title right. I messed up a bunch of my titles in the past, but you know what? We're getting this one right. Week 8 of the NFL. Here are my picks. I did awful. I went like 5-8 last week. We're starting at 23-19 overall, which is still, over 500, but still, we did really bad last week. I really got any given Sunday. That was embarrassing. But you know what? I'm not betting any money on this. I'm not telling you to bet any money on this. Don't trust me. I'm going off my heart and my brain. And my brain kind of let me down last week. So you know what? It's a new week. We're going 16 for 16 because all teams are playing this week. So that's very cool. But yeah, jump right into it. Like and subscribe. Wave Saves episode 5, starting right now. First game, Thursday Night Football. Buffalo, Tampa Bay. I'm taking the Bills. No real reason. I think the Bills are going to bounce back after that loss to the Patriots. Like I said last week, the Bills are probably the weirdest team in the NFL. Buffalo over Tampa Bay. Punch it in. Next. Dallas versus the Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys. They had a bye last week. I hate the Cowboys with all my heart, so I want to pick them to lose every week. But you know what? I think they're going to beat the Rams. No real reason. We're just going for it. Cowboys over Rams. Next up. Vikings versus Packers. I'm going to take the Vikings. The Vikings had a big win against the Niners. Big statement win. Kirk Cousins. Kirk top 10. Maybe. I don't know. I don't really do quarterback rankings, but that's the narrative they're pushing. Kirk top 10 quarterback. Maybe. And the Packers, they lost to Denver last week, which is probably the equivalent to losing to just a bunch of 10-year-olds. So Packers are down bad. Vikings are going to beat them. Punch it in. Next up. Falcons versus the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee had a bye last week, and Atlanta beat, I think, the Buccaneers. And that was a pick that I got wrong. So I'm going to take the Falcons over the Titans. Maybe the Falcons are going to ride this one-game winning streak, and maybe Desmond Ridder is going to be actually a smart quarterback, so Arthur Smith can be a happy coach. Maybe. That's what I'm thinking. Falcons over Titans. Next up, Colts versus the Saints. I'm going to take the Colts. The Colts had a pretty sad loss to the Browns last week. I think it was a game-winning field goal by the Browns. I think the Colts are going to bounce back. They're out. They're missing Anthony Richardson for the rest of the year, but they're the only team in the NFL to score 20-plus points in every game. I learned that stat this morning. Shane Steichen, former Eagles OC, head coach over there now. He's doing good things for that offense. I think they're going to beat the Saints. And that's my pick. Next up, Dolphins versus the Patriots. I'm going to take the Dolphins. Dolphins lost pretty bad to my Eagles last week. That running game did not look like anything, and Tyreek had probably his worst game of the year, even though he had 80 receiving yards and a touchdown. So, maybe they're down bad. I don't think so. They're going to beat the Patriots. Patriots had a big statement win against Buffalo last week. I don't think it's a statement. I think it's just they're a bad team that won. Like, they're not making a statement saying, like, we're here for real. I think it's just, they won any given Sunday. Dolphins over Patriots. Next up, Battle of MetLife. Jets versus Giants. I'm taking the Jets. Jets had a bye last week, and the Giants beat the Commanders, which is very surprising. I'm going to take the Jets. I still think the Jets are a pretty good football team. I think, they beat my Eagles in week 6, whatever. But, I think Zach Wilson, he's not a good quarterback, but he's figuring things out. They have a good team around them, really good defense. And I think the Giants are just still a pretty bad football team. So, Jets over Giants. Next up, Jaguars versus Steelers. I'm taking the Jaguars. They won last week, and so did the Steelers. Both of these teams won last week, which is very surprising. I picked the Steelers to lose, and I'm picking them to lose again. I think the Jaguars are going to beat them. I still think the Steelers' offense is just abysmal, and I think it's just going to contribute to their loss. And hopefully Calvin really can have a good game. Trevor Lawrence is still looking okay. ETN, he's still running his legs off. So yeah, Jaguars over Steelers. Next up, my Eagles versus the Commanders in Washington. I'm taking the Birds. Big win against Miami. Big statement win. I think, honestly, with that win, I think the Eagles solidified themselves as the best team in the NFL at this point, maybe. Maybe. Jalen Hurts, he had a really big bounce-back game after that really bad game against the Jets. He did have that one pick, but I think that was, that wasn't a bad read by him. That was just, football. Defense made a good play. A.J. Brown could beat the record for most consecutive games with 125-plus receiving yards, which is pretty cool. 1K always open. Top 3 receiver in the league at this point, I think. I think I'm not insane in saying that. Run defense looked really good last week. I think that's big because the Commanders have a really good run game. Brian Robinson was kind of running all over us in that week 3 win against them in overtime. But yeah, I'm going to take the Eagles over the Commanders. Yeah, go Birds. Next up, Texans versus Carolina. Battle of the top 3 quarterback picks, or top 2. I'm taking Houston. I think C.J. Stroud at this point is just better than Bryce Young. I think at this point the Texans are just better than the Panthers. And yeah, I think the Panthers also had a bye last week, and they're still winless, I think. I think Houston's going to continue that streak and just make them even more winless. Wait, I don't know if that makes sense, but Texans over Panthers. Next up, Seahawks versus Browns. I'm taking the Hawks. Yeah, no real reason. I don't know. Cleveland's actually playing pretty good football right now. They've won 2 straight games after that. They beat the Colts last week, and they beat the Niners before that. I don't know. Football's football. I'm going to take the Seahawks over the Browns. No real reason. Next up, Kansas City versus Denver. I'm taking the Chiefs. Both of these teams won last week, but I think the Chiefs are just fundamentally and overall much better than the Broncos. That's why I'm picking them. I think the Chiefs are going to move on to 7-1 and beat the Broncos by at least 10 points. Actually, it may end up being a close game, and that's my bold prediction. Close game, but I think the Chiefs are going to pull out. Next up, Ravens versus Arizona Cardinals. Ravens, big win against Detroit last week. Lamar Jackson looked like the quarterback that Ravens fans know and love. And the receivers actually caught the football, which I think, that's obviously a no-brainer thought, but I think if receivers catch footballs, you can be a pretty good football team. And the Ravens show that they're a pretty good football team when their offense is actually capable of making plays. So I'm going to take them over Arizona. I think the Ravens are pretty good right now, and I think it just depends on if they can stay healthy and actually play like this late in the season, which always seems to be the case because they have a pretty injury-prone roster. So, yeah, Ravens over Cardinals. Next up, Bengals versus the Niners. I'm taking the Bengals. I hate the Niners. They've lost 2 straight games. I still think, Brock Purdy's a fraud. I think it's, fraud's harsh. I want to be harsh because I hate the Niners, but I don't know. These last 2 weeks, they've kind of been telling it how, at the level of skill that Brock Purdy has or doesn't have. And I think, he's not as hyped as the Niners fans made him out to be. He has a really good roster around him. And when you lose certain pieces, it kind of exposes that he's just a mediocre quarterback. And I think that Joe Burr is going to have a pretty big game, and he's going to, carry the Bengals. I don't want to say carry, but he's going to be the main factor in beating this Niners team. Bengals over Niners. Next up, Chargers versus Bears. I'm taking the Chargers. No real reason. I think the Bears are actually playing pretty good football right now. They had that rookie quarterback, his name's like Tanner or something, out of D2 football. They won last week, but I don't know. I think the Chargers are going to have a pretty good game. They've lost 2 straight games at this point, and I think they're going to bounce back, and Justin Herbert's going to have a pretty good game. Finally, Lions versus Raiders. I'm taking Detroit looked really bad in their loss last week against Baltimore, but I think they're going to bounce back. And I think they're going to be starting Hoyer. I think because I saw, what's his name? What's their coach's name? Josh McDaniel. He came out and said that they're not going to start that Aiden O'Connell kid, which kind of sucks for him. But I don't know. I think the Raiders are playing pretty bad football at this point. So I'm taking the Lions. Let's hope these picks pan out better than they did last week. Like I said, I'm 23-19 at this point after a 5-8 week last week. Really bad. So let's hope that, the football gods are on my side and make me look good. And I go 16 for 16. We can move on to 39-19, which would be kind of impressive if I can get all these picks right. That'd be, that'll probably never happen, but we'll see. Football's football. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video. Peace out.